Welcome to another video. It's finally spring in the gorge right outside my hometown of Vancouver, Washington. So springtime in the gorge means pretty much one thing, and that's wildflowers. Lupin and balsam root are the two favorites, or the most plentiful. And so that's what I'm after today. I'm going to spend the next few days out here in the gorge looking for some really good compositions with those really yellow balsam root and those purple lupin to put against the backdrop of the Columbia River. I'm almost at the top, which is good because it's a lot steeper than I thought. Conditions are really good. We're gonna have a really nice sunset. A lot of good clouds, a little bit of space in the west where the sun's gonna be setting. So we could really have something nice. The thing is, I'd like to get some photographs before the sun fully sets, because the backlighting on these flowers is just really, really pretty. And I got a limited amount of time. We got a little bit of time, but that time's gonna run out before the light gets really pretty, if it's gonna light up and we're gonna get any color. So I've got to find some compositions, and I'm not quite at the top yet. I got to go a little bit further up. You can see behind me, I have a little ways to go. And hopefully it'll give me a cleaner vantage point down to the river too. View back there is pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome. I had to find a place where the flowers hadn't been destroyed or trampled on, and then it also kind of falls away to the gorge into the river. And this is going to fit the bill pretty well, I think. This week's video is going to take you through everything you need to know about focus stacking, when you need to use it, how to do it, and how to get it in Photoshop and then come out with a finished product. First, let's talk about when do you need to focus stack. So if you've got a subject that's extremely close to the camera lens, and then you've got a midground and then a background that you still want in focus, then odds are you're going to have to focus stack. And what that means is, focus stacking is taking a series of images where you move that focus point, very, very close to the lens. And then you take another shot, and then you take another shot, and then you take another one, and another one, and another one. And then when you get all the way to the background, you've got an image for all of those depth of field areas. Then after you get that, you've got to put it all together into Photoshop. Lightroom doesn't have that ability, so it's a Photoshop-only option at this point. So you can make things as complicated as you'd like, with depth of field calculators and then measuring the distance between your lens and your subject. But it's really not necessary to get that far in the weeds unless that's just what you really enjoy doing. So your first step is simply going to be go to f16 to give you the most depth of field between your photos. F16 is where you're going to want to be. I wouldn't go above f16 because of diffraction. If you're not sure what that is and how depth of field is affected by increasing that aperture up to f22 by closing it way, way down, I'll link to a video up here. Go check that out when you get done with this one. And it'll explain how f22 is just not a good choice when you're doing photography. The easiest thing is if you've got a newer camera, my A7R5, I know that some of the Nikons, the new Nikons, have that ability as well. But if you have a newer camera, you can check. And it might have a drive mode for focus stacking. And the A7R5 does. So I can just set it up, instead of doing bracketing, I can set it to focus stacking. And I'm going to do it both ways, so you'll see it. But with focus stacking set in the camera, I just set it to that. And I put my focus point at the closest point to the camera that I want in focus, and basically just hit the shutter, and it's going to take however many it needs, and it's going to automatically move that focus point through my image until it gets enough photographs to put it all together and make sure everything is sharp. One thing you'll notice that I am very, very fortunate is that there's little to no wind, because it is impossible to focus stack if things are windy, because the camera is going to be taking anywhere from 3 to 10, 12 shots depending, and it's going to have to align all of those in order to focus stack it. And if those flowers are just jumping all over the place, it's not going to work. The light is getting really, really nice. It's just barely above that mountain range back there in the gorge. And just look how good and soft but directional it is. It's just side lighting, and it's so pretty. I mean, even that little barn that's down in here is catching just the last little bit of that light. And this is what you wait for. As you can see, the clouds, unfortunately, all of that great cloud is not quite where I would like it, but I'll take it. And the sun is right there. It's about to go behind. And I've got the composition all set up with these balsam root flowers. As you can tell from the voices in the background, this is not a secret place, nor is it a hard to reach place. Well, it's kind of hard. But a lot of people come here for sunset, but it's a weekday. So if you come, I recommend you get up here really early in order to get a spot. As you can probably tell, this isn't the gorge, and I'm in the future. I actually had some recording issues, totally my fault, in the gorge when I was trying to demonstrate the focus stacking and the technique and the way to do it. So I've come to a local park to re-record how to do it with the camera. On the Sony a7R5, it's got a drive mode that automatically does your focus bracketing. I've overexposed on purpose because I just want you to be able to see the back of the camera really, really well. And drive mode is here. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to bracket focus, which is right there. Hit OK. And it's going to tell us, if you can see, when we pick this, it says standard, and then it's got a number after it. It says 39. That's the maximum number of photos that you're going to allow it to take. That number can be set to 100 if you're doing like macro photography, or even more. But for landscape, you're never going to do more than maybe 15 or so. So anyway, that number doesn't really matter. So we're going to say OK. And then I'm going to put my focus point. You can see it's right here in the middle. Let me make it come up green. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to put it at the closest flower down here. Focus on it. And then I'm going to hit the shutter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Took 6 shots to get from here all the way to the background in focus. So what I usually do is when I get done with that series, I will change it back to just a 2-second timer, and then I will put some fingers up to remind myself that that was a focus bracket. And hopefully I put up 6 fingers so I can remember how many photos there are. And then I will do another sequence just to be safe. Let me see if I can see. There we go. There's focus. And then I'll make sure I bring that focus point back to the bottom. Focus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was only 4 that time. Now you notice it's really windy. The flowers are bouncing around. There's absolutely no way I would get a focus stack in these kind of conditions, another thing that just makes it so hard if you're doing flowers and there's any kind of wind. Now I'll show you how to do it manually. Doing it manually is not any harder, it just takes more time. And what you're going to do is you're going to focus as close to the camera as you can, or as close to the front of the lens, whatever's in your frame. And then you're going to take the shot, 2-second timer. Okay, and then we're going to take and move up into the frame a little bit. And this varies depending on how many things that are close to your frame. And I'm at f16 and I am at 16 millimeters. So I've got a pretty good depth of field. So I'm going to probably do 4 or 5 shots and I should have more than enough. So I'm going to move it up a little bit, focus, take the shot, move it up a little bit more, focus, take the shot. Move it up a little bit more. Focus, take the shot. Move it up a little bit more. Focus, take the shot. Now once you get far enough away into your frame, away from the camera, hopefully you're still able to see that, you don't have to keep on going because the depth of field gets greater the further away your focus point is. So I'm going to move it way back here. You can see it at the end of the field. One more. We're back in the office, got all the images downloaded. So let's get into Lightroom and I'll show you how to get this done. So here we are in Lightroom, and you'll notice I've got in my film strip, I've got my images ready to go. If you look at this one, you can see I put my fingers up to tell me how many images are in that focus stack. So after it's done the focus stacking, taking all the images, I put up my fingers and just do a one shot. So give me an idea, or hopefully an exact number of images I need to count backwards to make sure I include all the images I need. We're going to do two different sets of images. One right before sunset when the flowers were backlit, and then I'm going to do another set after the sun had set that's going to have a different look to it. But the process is going to be pretty much identical. I've already done my basic edits, and I've synced it across all 8 images. So once I've got that done, I'm going to select my first image, hold Shift, select the last in the group, total of 8. It'll say right here, it says 8 selected. Right click and edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. After Photoshop finishes loading all 8 images, you'll see them in the layers panel over here on the right. The first thing we want to do is we want to align all of the images, because when the focus point moves, the lens can what's called focus breathe a little bit. So even though you're not physically changing your focal length, it's gonna breathe just a little bit, and we want to make sure that every single image is exactly aligned together. Otherwise, the focus stack isn't going to work. We'll select the first and then hold Shift, select the last in the group. We'll go up under Edit, and then we'll say Auto Align Layers, and then OK. Once you're done aligning, you can just kind of turn these layers on and off, and you can see, like here on the edge, that it had to like shrink that first one in order to make it work, to make it align. And as we go, it's more and more as the focus point's moving. I'm not changing the focal length, but Photoshop's doing all the hard work. It's aligning everything perfectly. This is very, very important to remind you that if it's windy, it's a windy day, and your subject is moving, in the case like this would be wildflowers, you're not going to be able to focus stack. It's never going to happen, ever, because every image there's no way to line up all those flowers because they're all moving all over. Now, focus stacking in Photoshop is really easy. That was step 1, and there's only 2 steps. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back under Edit, and we're going to Auto Blend Layers. We want to make sure that Stack Images is selected, and Seamless Tones and Colors, and Content Aware Fill Transparent Areas. That's up to you. I'm going to leave it checked because I'm probably going to crop in just a little bit anyway, and it's not a lot that it has to fill in. So we're going to leave that checked as well, and then we'll say OK. You'll see that it's blending selected layers based on content. Once it's done, you'll notice that Photoshop has put a mask on every single layer, and it's basically found those areas that are sharp, that are in focus, and then it's masked everything automatically. You had to do nothing. And let's just see how well that it did. It also went ahead, because we did that content aware fill to do the edges, it actually created a merged layer at the top. We're going to turn that off, and we're going to go and zoom in to 100%. And we're going to just basically go through the layers and see how everything looks. Now, this is the final. So you can see these trees back here, which were really far away. They are very, very sharp. It looks amazing. All of these flowers look good. This fence is super sharp. Just looks wonderful. All as far as close down to the front of the camera, absolutely sharp. Absolutely looks great. So if we cut these off as we go, you're going to see where Photoshop did its magic, and it's basically just pulling in layers from above in order to create a perfect image that's focused all the way from the front of the camera all the way to the back. I'm going to turn my merged layer back on at the very top. And if I wanted to do any last minute edits like this lens flare, I'm shooting right into the sun to get rid of that. I would do all of those quick edits. And let's take care of this one. So I would also go in and probably get rid of these dead branches from this other flower over here because it's kind of distracting. And then when I got done, I would flatten the image because you no longer need all of this. You don't want a gigantic file at the end. I would just flatten the image, save it, and then it would bring it back into Lightroom. We're going to do one more set of images. This is after sunset, and it's going to have a whole different look because now the flowers are no longer backlit. The sun is kind of set. And I've done the same exact thing. I did a preliminary edit on my images, and I'm going to select all of them, and then I'm going to right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Now that we got the images loaded into Photoshop as layers, I wanted to just show you how that focus just starts to fall off even at f16. So we're going to zoom in to 100%. And you'll notice that back here, my trees this is not in focus at all. But right here in the middle looks pretty good. And even kind of down here in the bottom is okay. But if you look back over here, it starts to fall off. This is not in focus. The fence is not in focus. That's not in focus. So what we're going to do is we'll just turn that top layer off. And let's take a few because it's probably going to be hard to see. This is before I've aligned them. You notice it's kind of like pulsing and getting a little bit larger as I go through these. That's because that focus point is moving and the focus is breathing just a little bit. These trees are already starting to look better as we go. As we go through, and then we get all the way back here to the back. And look at how much sharper this background here is. This fence and all of these flowers compared to this one. Now, if you want your background to be out of focus and you want the subject of your flowers to be really, really sharp, you don't even have to focus stack all of them. You can just pick the ones of your images where the flowers are all in focus and then focus stack those. Or you can just pick one and do a single image and not worry about focus stacking at all. Again, that's up to you as a photographer what you want to do. But I want everything to be sharp in these, so we're going to turn them all back on. And then I'm going to hold shift down again, select on that, and we're going to auto align layers. Okay, now that that's done, they're already selected. Step 2 is go back under edit, and we're going to say auto blend layers. And this time I'm going to take off the content aware fill, the transparent areas. We're not going to worry about that because I'm going to end up probably cropping the image anyway, and I'm not that concerned. So seamless tones and colors, stack images, those you have to have checked and say okay. Now it's going to blend the selected layers based on the content, and when it gets done, we're going to have a perfectly focused from front to back image. Once it finishes doing the focus stacking, let's just take a quick look. Trees are absolutely tack sharp. Back here, all these flowers look great. Everything here it looks really, really good. It really does. It looks really good. I don't have any sun flares because the sun had already set, and because I didn't do the generative fill at the end, you'll notice that I've got a little bit of a white border around the edges where Photoshop had to resize some of these layers in order to get them to be perfect. But that is looking really good. The last thing I would do is I would do a crop like that. Say okay. And then I'm going to flatten the image just to save space. And then again, I would go in and probably take out these sticks over here on the lower left. They're not that attractive. And then I would just go File, Save, and it'll save it back into a Lightroom. And here's our finished image. Absolutely sharp from front to back. Even if you did manual focus bracketing like I showed you earlier in the video, the steps in Photoshop are going to be exactly the same. I highly recommend that you always start your focusing at the closest point and going to infinity instead of doing it the other way around, just to keep it really, really simple. And when the layers load, you'll be able to easily see that transition from back to front. Here are the final images that are focus stacked for you to take a look at. I'd like to know which one you like best. Do you like the one with the backlight of the sun before it's set, or after it's set with a little bit more color in the sky and without that backlighting on the flowers? Leave me a comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.